And welcome into Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Hope you enjoyed your holidays. Of course, it was full of basketball, and we will certainly be plenty to talk about there very, very soon. We hope you're, in the meantime, can enjoy the show. We got lots to cover. Sorry, a little rambling there as we get going here. Lots to talk about. We're calling this our Stuffed Start edition of the show because there's just that much to talk about. Certainly, we've got controversy, we have upsets, we have crazy top 25. The first official week of the top 25 will come out tomorrow for D3Hoops.com. So lots to cover and lots to talk about. If you want to interact with us, of course, don't forget, follow us on Facebook, Facebook.com/Hoopsville. Don't forget, join us on Twitter, Twitter.com/Hoopsville. Or I should say at D3Hoopsville. Hashtag Hoopsville, but Twitter.com/D3Hoopsville. You can also email us, Hoopsville at D3Hoops.com. We are, technically 2 weeks. What, 2 weeks plus into the season at this point? Yeah, 2 weeks and 2 days. Plenty to talk about already. Certainly things that have caught the headlines, and we will try and talk about some of it. Not all of it can we actually discuss because we don't have a lot of information, but we will do our best. Nonetheless, top 25s, chaos, as expected, especially on the men's side. New top 25s, again, will come out tomorrow. And plenty more. Let's talk about our guests tonight. We will talk to one team that is turning heads early on in the season. The NACC is 4-0 against the CCIW, and two of those games are thanks to Benedictine, who have beaten two top 25 teams, Illinois Wesleyan and Elmhurst. We'll be talking to the Eagles head coach coming up here very soon. Also, we'll be talking to, on the men's, I should say, there's a basketball tournament up in Western New York that a lot of people talk about. It's been around for 50 years. It's now called the Wendy's College Classic. It's been a lot of other names, the Chase Tournament, the J.P. Morgan Tournament. There's a lot of names that have gone with the tournament. It is in its final year after 50 years on the men's side, 24 on the women's side. We'll be talking to its director, Mike Daley, former head coach at Nazareth of 23 years. Talk to him about the event. Talk to him about why it's going away. You're going to hear some things that are very common on the D3 side, and you're going to hear the same words about D2 involved with that. We'll also talk about why, or you'll hear why maybe, Mike hopes it comes back in some form in the future. We'll talk about his favorite memories, and we will announce the brackets from that event as well. We'll then head out to Hope, talk men's basketball. Greg Mitchell's team only has one loss on the season just coming yesterday, but it's not a bad loss, and the win prior to that was even bigger. We'll talk about the Hope squad making a return and how dangerous they could be this season. Could they be the new number one? Some people think they might be better than Augustana. I don't know if they'll be the new number one, but are they number one? I guess is a more appropriate way of saying that. Then we'll head down to Virginia and talk Lynchburg women's basketball and the ODAC. An alum is running things, and we'll talk to her about her team, the ODAC, if she thinks anybody can take out Thomas More, and the new rule changes. That's all coming up here on Hoopsville. Let's talk about those top 25s first. On the women's side, top 25 went 81-20 to start the season, at about an 80% clip. Those receiving votes, 101-36 for an overall 182-56 record, but 81 wins and 20 losses on the women's side. You got to get down to number 7, Bowdoin, before you find a loss in the top 25. As Thomas More, Amherst, Tufts, George Fox, and New York U, along with Oshkosh, all went undefeated to start the season before the next top 25. Bowdoin's lost twice. Plattsburgh State by 7, and New England, University of New England, I should say, the 17th ranked team by 20. Took their revenge out on Salve Regina. We should also mention in a neutral court game they defeated Clarkson. Wheaton lost to number 11 Hope. Wash U lost to Stevens Point by 16. Calvin lost to Wisconsin Lutheran by 6. FDU Florham took their first regular season, or second regular season loss in a while. They lost to Lebanon Valley, who's receiving votes. Ohio Northern lost to Rochester, then lost to number 1 Thomas More. Catholic is off to a horrible start. Their women's team is 1-3. They've lost to Randolph-Macon, Trinity, Texas, and Pitt Bradford, and beat Ferrum. But Catholic's off to a rough start. University of New England is going well. Get DePauw's lost 2 games. They're 3-2. Geneseo State lost to Gettysburg to start the season. They're 2-1. Bethel has lost twice to be 2-2. Luther's lost once. Eastern Connecticut's lost a game. Baldwin Wallace has lost 2. So we'll see who jumps into the top 25, but it's not like those receiving votes are doing all that well. Babson's lost 2. Transylvania has lost 2. Salisbury's lost a game. The Whitewater is 5-0. That's pretty impressive. St. Norbert has lost 2. The big one that jumps out at me, Cabrini is 0-4 on the season. Cabrini, we knew they lost some, but wow, 0-4 to start the season. Lost to Eastern, Stockton, Moravian, and Scranton. What's interesting about that is all of those teams receiving votes in the top 25. So that's on the women's side. The only other note, North Central has lost 3 games, surprisingly. Calvin, Maryville, of course, both of those ranked in the top 15, and lost to Augsburg. Whitworth has lost 2. So that's on the women's side. On the men's side of things, a little rougher. 82-31 in the top 25. 82-31 in the first 2 weeks of basketball. Virginia Wesleyan is 4-2, having lost to Wesley and now Salisbury. Catholic is 3-2. They've lost to Marietta and Washington and Lee. They lost to Washington and Lee on a buzzer beater, and I believe beat Wesley on a buzzer beater. Or lost to Marietta on a buzzer beater. Somehow there's like 2 or 3 buzzer beaters involved in Catholic's 5 games. Mount Union's lost twice. Elmas, as we talk about, lost to Benedictine. Babson lost to Bowdoin. That was a bit of a surprise. I heard some really good things about Babson, some of the transfers that have come in, but they lost to Bowdoin, 88-84. Marietta lost to St. Vincent. Trinity, Connecticut lost to Springfield. Got smoked. We talked about that on a previous show. Eastern Connecticut has lost twice. St. Olaf has lost twice. Once to Stevens Point. 1 to River Falls. Maybe a letdown against River Falls. Hope, we talked about their 1 loss coming to Cornerstone after beating Aquinas handily. Chicago has lost twice, but has righted the ship since then. Emory has lost 3 times. Was messaging with Coach Jason Zimmerman just before the show. Basically said there's no excuse. Team is getting used to new roles and dealing with injuries. Have to keep getting better. They knew that it was going to be a rough start, but they haven't played very well in the last 5 outings, 2 of those being the Hoopsville Classic. So Emory off to a 4-3 start to start the season. 7 games in the first 12 days of the season. F&M lost to Lancaster Bible. We talked about that back at the Hoopsville Classic. Worcester lost to Skidmore. Dickinson has lost 3 times. I was at the McDaniel loss. It was not pretty. I also was at the St. John Fisher loss and the win against Stevenson. Coach Soretti says he's done with me. Actually, the Stevenson game, I only saw about a third of it, a half of it. Oshkosh has lost twice. Illinois Wesleyan has lost twice. Once to Ohio Wesleyan. East Texas Baptist has lost. Others receiving vote, not much better. 88-27. Actually, it is better at 70-65 clip. But Randolph-Macon's off to a 1-3 start. Of course, I didn't even vote for them, but others did. Johns Hopkins off to a 1-3 start. I did vote for Hopkins, I think. I don't remember now. Bates has lost. Scranton has lost. William Patterson's lost twice, and we'll talk about that. Whitewater lost. St. Norbert lost. Stockton lost. By the way, William Patterson barely got past Rosemont, 72-68 in their return. North Central lost to Chicago. Calvin lost 3 times. They're 2-3 with losses to Ohio Wesleyan, Cornerstone, and Aquinas. Granted, 2 of those outside of Division III. Center lost to Maryville. Hardin-Simmons, who I thought was going to be a darn good team this year. 3-3 start to the season with losses to Southwestern, Shriner, who they've now played twice, both of them close, and lost to Texas Lutheran. Salisbury's off to a 5-0 start. Christopher Newport's off to a 4-0 start. Keene State off to a 5-0 start. Wash U off to a 5-0 start. Ripon lost. Southern Vermont lost twice. Endicott lost twice. Northwestern off to a 5-0 start. Northwestern, Minnesota. Absolute craziness in the top 25. Votes come out tomorrow, or I should say voting takes place tomorrow. Hopefully it comes out tomorrow. Unbelievable, to say the least. I don't even know what I'm going to do with my top 25. I am completely lost. I am not sure what I'm going to do. It's going to take a lot of work tomorrow. I've already started the work. But I only know that my number one vote's not changing. That is it. Everything else is up in the air. It's going to be wholesale changes. Not that that's overly surprising, but still a little bit. Let's talk about William Patterson. Jose Rabimbus, the head coach, announced Saturday, over a week ago, at the Hoopsville Classic, that he had been fired. Unceremoniously, for lack of a better description. That's my term. Some disagreement over a rental fee over the summer. Apparently some investigation or review, let's call it, found no reason to terminate him. But he was terminated nonetheless after they had lost to Brooklyn. Excuse me. He quits, or he gets fired, I should say. Team almost quits. They have a game 3 days later, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Yeah, 3 days later in conference against New Jersey City. Warm-ups take place. Starting lineups are announced. Teams go to take the floor, and William Patterson takes their jerseys off and walks off the floor. Took an announcement over to the radio guys, who apparently stood and applauded. We can talk about why they shouldn't have stayed and applaud, but that's another story for another time. But William Patterson walks off the floor. Goes down as a forfeit. I have talked to the conference. That's how they're ruling it, unless they hear otherwise from the NCAA. They have reached out to the NCAA to get clarification on whether it is a forfeit. I have reached out to the NCAA to understand if that forfeit goes down as an official loss for William Patterson and an official win for New Jersey City. Now, we talk about vacated wins in the past. Vacated wins, if let's say you've been caught for something in the NCAA and you vacate a win, okay? That means it's no longer a win in your column, but it does not go down as a win for the other team. The loss is just removed from their schedule. It basically goes down as if you never played them. I want to get clarification on whether this game with William Patterson in New Jersey is of that scenario. Is it of the scenario that the game never took place, or is it of the scenario that it is a win, an official win for New Jersey City? You may be asking me, well, why does it matter? Remember how all games in November mean just as much as they do in February when it comes to criteria and selection stuff? William Patterson has a very good team. If they keep their heads about them, they will be in the conversation come regional rankings and NCAA tournament and possible hosting. If that is a loss, that is a common opponent, that is an SOS, that doesn't affect the SOS. Grand scheme, I'll get back to that. It's possibly a game against a regional ranked opponent for both teams. That can be a win-loss for either of them. If it's not considered a game, if it's considered like a vacated game, that isn't in the criteria. If it isn't considered a vacated game, it is considered a vacated game and thus didn't happen, doesn't get a win, doesn't get a loss, how does that affect the SOS? For the most part, double round robin conferences, SOSs are about 500. We know it's give or take. Some are a little higher, some are a little lower. But for the grand scheme of a double round robin, without going into all the little details, double round robin conferences, your SOS for a conference is 500. It's your out of conference that then sways it up and down. Again, weak conferences have below 500, strong conferences have above 500, but nothing massive. This offsets that double round robin if it's considered a vacated game. I understand on paper a forfeit is a win, but that doesn't mean in the general sense of the NCAA it is. So there's ramifications here. Let's move on then. We didn't know if they were going to play on Saturday against Rosemont at Cabrini. I was texting and talking to all kinds of people in the days leading up with that, even on Thanksgiving Day, trying to figure out if William Patterson was going to show up. William Patterson didn't even, just told everybody, hey, you can expect us to be there. But from what I heard, no guarantees. We don't know yet. The rumors are that there was a meeting with administration after practice Friday after Thanksgiving, before their game on Saturday. I have a feeling that meeting did not go so well from things I have heard. But the team showed up at Cabrini and the team took the court against Rosemont. I made sure that the tip-off went up. Tip went up. William Patterson won the ball. William Patterson barely won the game. The team is revolting against this decision. Jose Rabimbas is appealing the decision. We have reached out to Jose, see if he wanted to come on the show. He does not want to speak publicly as the appeal is going through the process. We've reached out to him since. We're waiting to hear back. This is crazy though, folks. We are in chaos mode. This is a very good William Patterson squad who probably deserves to have top 25 votes. They smoked Mount Union before getting smoked by Brooklyn. You could argue the smoking against Brooklyn, they may have been sidetracked, a little distracted. But that game could have ramifications. That game against New Jersey City could have so many ramifications. As far as the conference, right now they consider that a win for New Jersey City. So William Patterson has started the conference schedule with a loss. But regional rankings, criteria, selection criteria, at large, hosting, all can come down to a forfeited game. It's unbelievable. I am glad that the men of this team took the floor. Listen, I can understand you're angry about your coach not being unceremoniously in your eyes fired. I get it. I understand that. I don't know all the details, so I don't know who's right, who's wrong. It's the right decision and the wrong decision. I do not know. I have absolutely no opinion on whether Jose Rabimbas should have been fired, if Jose Rabimbas should still be on the team, if Jose Rabimbas is being screwed or the school is. I do not have an opinion. I do not have enough information. What I do have an opinion on is I understand as a team that you have a problem with this decision. But let's remember one thing. William Patterson pays the bills. And I understand you pay tuition, but William Patterson is paying for that team to be on there. William Patterson is paying for William Patterson to be on the jerseys. They ultimately make the decisions. And while you stood up and had your protest, and while I can go either side on that protest. I can say it's a good idea and I can say it's a bad idea. I can argue either side of that. The actions leading up to the next game were ridiculous. And I'll go as far as to say I wish the administration was a little bit more vocal. Now, I have not reached out to anybody in the administration because the general consensus that I have received from everybody else is that the administration's not talking. No one's talking. So I have not reached out. We meant to do it before today, did not have time. We will do so before Thursday. Basically, I wanted to see if they got to Saturday. If they hadn't played Saturday, whole different can of worms here. Now, granted, they could still not show up for Wednesday's game against New Jersey City. I apologize. I said they were playing New Jersey City on Wednesday. They were not. Last Tuesday, they were not playing New Jersey City. That's who they play on Wednesday. I apologize for the confusion here. They were playing Ramapo last Tuesday. Oh, James Gillette just tweeted me about that. Thank you, James. I just realized that myself. It was against Ramapo. Chuck McBreen is the head coach there. I apologize. Thank you, James. Totally screwed that up. New Jersey City's on my mind because I know they got the game with them coming up on Wednesday. So lots to go in. I understand the frustration, but guys, take the floor. You've got you don't get that many games. If you are lucky, you play 100 games in your career. If you play every game your freshman year and you maybe even get some extra basketball in there, you get 100 games in your career. Don't throw them away. The administration could throw away the season. I want to see these guys succeed. I think they're a very good team. Don't throw away the season. I understand you're angry. I get it. But let's not throw away everything. We got to take a break. When we come back, we will be talking Benedictine basketball. We'll probably talk more about William Patterson down the road. We have plenty more ahead as well. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com, the National Association of Basketball Coaches. If you have questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville at D3Hoops.com. Join us on Facebook, Facebook.com/Hoopsville. Benedictine basketball coming up next here on Hoopsville.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Division III schools offer academic scholarships instead of athletic scholarships. This really puts the focus that the student athlete needs to maintain that GPA.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III. A lot of people pick schools just based on the sport and don't get that experience.
Being a Division III athlete and developing my leadership skills has definitely put my name out there and helped me get more recognition on campus, but more recognition nationwide. I did win the Jostens Trophy, which is based on leadership, academics, and then how well you do on the court.
I'm also the Schwartz Scholar of my class. Schwartz Scholarship is basically a scholarship that is given to a student who's identified as a likely leader.
At the end of the day, it won't matter how they play on the field, it will matter how they do in the classroom.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor's Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Division III schools offer academic scholarships instead of athletic scholarships. This really puts the focus that the student athlete needs to maintain that GPA.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III. A lot of people pick schools just based on the sport and don't get that experience.
Being a Division III athlete and developing my leadership skills has definitely put my name out there and helped me get more recognition on campus, but more recognition nationwide. I did win the Jostens Trophy, which is based on leadership, academics, and then how well you do on the court.
I'm also the Schwartz Scholar of my class. Schwartz Scholarship is basically a scholarship that is given to a student who's identified as a likely leader.
At the end of the day, it won't matter how they play on the field, it will matter how they do in the classroom.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor's Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Sorry, a little bit of delay there. Technical difficulties. Hope you're enjoying the show. If you got any questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, Hoopsville at D3Hoops, or join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville. Got a little wrapped up there with William Patterson. Got a little bit behind with things. Got lots ahead of us, so I hope you're enjoying the show. If you got questions for us, you find out how you can interact with us and ask us questions, or our guests. You can also do that right at the bottom of the screen again. Well, thanks, James, for pointing out my mistake, which I apparently caught about the same time he did, saying William Patterson was playing New Jersey City when they forfeited. They were actually playing Ramapo. and we'll play New Jersey City coming up. One of the other stories catching certainly a lot of attention is losses in the top 25, which we certainly talked about. 2 CCIW teams have gone down this season to one team in particular, 4 of them to the same conference, the NACC, and part of that conference is Benedictine. And one of the team that is responsible for the dismantling, as it were, is Benedictine. Benedictine winning 2 games of their 3 so far against top 25 opponents. And I should say, by the way, they're responsible for 3 of the CCIW losses in conference because I guess that's just how they roll. They have beaten 3 CCIW teams since they got going here, and it's pretty impressive to say the least. Hold on a second there we go. Now, last year they started with a win over Illinois Wesleyan, and obviously that trend is moving forward because they got a win over Illinois Wesleyan, a win over Wheaton, and a win over Elmhurst. Of course, the first and the third, all top 25 teams. So joining us on the Hoopsville hotline, because it just made sense to talk to him, is Benedictine head coach Chuck Bunkenburg. Sorry, Coach. First and foremost, welcome to Hoopsville, sir.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate you having me.
Listen, last year you guys beat Illinois Wesleyan, certainly got some attention. Even I was like, okay, that's not too bad. Good way to start the season. Then you lost to Wheaton, you lost to Aurora. You had a little bit of a rough stretch in the middle of the season where you guys lost 3 of 4. You guys kind of, the Illinois Wesleyan was a nice feather in the cap, as it were. You guys have 3 feathers in the cap to start this season. Those are big wins at Illinois Wesleyan and at Elmhurst, who are both top 25 ranked, and then a home win against Wheaton. Did you expect this team to be able to go out there and beat a Wheaton squad by 15, to beat an Elmhurst squad by 8?
I guess what I felt going into the season that we would be competitive. I think anytime you go on the road against a Wesleyan and on the road against Elmhurst, 2 ranked teams, obviously you feel going in that they're going to be tough games. But our kids really felt confident going into the season. And we have 8 of our top 11 back from last year. And I thought we learned a lesson from last year. We did knock off Wesleyan early on, but we didn't follow that win up with some quality wins. And I felt this year, our kids obviously going into Wesleyan felt, hey, we beat them last year. Why can't we beat them this year? But then what do we do after that? How are we going to handle some success? And I thought our kids have done that well.
Certainly have done that well. You're off to this great start. Like I said, a 15-point win at home against Wheaton. And, of course, the buzzer beater against Illinois Wesleyan, which we showed a couple of games ago, just kind of keeping your head, kind of a throw from the hip. I know that wasn't drawn up. It was off a rebound. But when you were in that scenario against Illinois Wesleyan and, again, at the Shirk Center, what did you tell the team going into that opportunity to knock them off a second time in a row?
Well, they lost a couple quality guards from the team, prior to the season this year, and we felt like our guard play was going to be pretty good. And so, it's funny. I was probably more nervous going in, even though I didn't show it to the kids. I was probably more nervous going into that game than they were. I mean, just the look on their faces. I mean, they had a confident feel. They felt like, we scrimmaged Augie, another CCIW team, before the season started, and we played them to about a 6-point game. So I thought that gave us a lot of confidence going into the season. I mean, Augie's obviously the number 1 team in the country, and we played it pretty tough. So I think that scrimmage was really big in letting our kids know that, hey, we can play with anybody. But, going into Wesleyan, it's one of the toughest places to play in the country. And, our kids battled and had a great first half, and the lead went back and forth in the second half. And I don't understand. That play was drawn up perfectly, Dave. I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Oh, so you're anticipating. I get it. You were anticipating the rebound. You're anticipating throwing off your hip. I get it.
Right.
By the way, for some reason, I think I called you Chuck at the beginning. I know graphically I put down Chuck. I'm not sure where that came from. I apologize to all you Eagle fans out there.
I've been called worse.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. I'm sure by opponents and opponent fans especially. Yeah, so anybody out there who saw me put Chuck on the graphic and call me that, including Eagles fans, I apologize. Not sure where my brain was. But yeah, I mean, that's what's great is you guys have that win. And again, last year we pointed out you had a couple losses here. Wheaton got you guys last time. Following that, you get this Wheaton game, you win them by 15, but then you're going up against an Elmhurst squad who's supposed to be better than both of them. How did you guys prepare for that game?
Going into the game, obviously the beginning of the season, you can only prepare so much. They played a Greenville team that played kind of that Grinnell style, and
Right.
they played another team out east, Curry. And so in watching those games, Greenville you don't get a whole lot of because this, Greenville dictates the style. But, again, going in, we felt like matchup-wise, we felt good. We have, two bigs inside, a 6'9" transfer in Luke Johnson and then a 6'5" returning junior in Adam Reynolds. We felt like we can match their size. And then their guard play, which is very, very good, but so is ours. I think we have one of the best defenders in our point guard. And then we have two big wings that are like 6'3". And so going in, I felt matchup-wise, we could play with them. And again, I think our feeling was go in there, play hard. Hey, we're on the road, no pressure. No one thinks we're going to come in here and beat them. And we just wanted to be in it at the end. And fortunately we were. And we probably had one of the best halves of our lives, though. I think we shot 70 or 80% from the three in that first half. And no one could have predicted the halftime score. And then obviously Elmhurst and John and their team's very good. They made some adjustments and played obviously a great second half, and we were able to hang on and win.
Let's talk about this team. It's led by Michael Blazik. By the way, awesome name, especially considering the spelling. Michael's leading the team with 16 points a game, along with Teron Harvey. Teron's got 16 points a game, and both are big rebounders because Harvey's bringing down 6, Blazik's bringing down 5.5, almost 6. Lucas Johnson's bringing down 7 at 13.7 points a game. Adam Reynolds, 12.7 points a game, also nearly 7 rebounds a game. John Dotson at 12 points a game and 4.3 rebounds. We don't want to leave out Tim Reamer at 8 points a game and 4.5 rebounds. That is balanced, not only scoring, but rebounding. I don't usually see. Now, granted, we're 3 games in. I get that. Sure. But even then, you usually have somebody who kind of stands out.
Well, again, our guards are we have good size. John is one of our, John Dotson, our point guard, is probably our best defender. And then Teron and Mike are big. And then we ask those guys to go to the glass, depending on the situation. And then I think a strength of ours is you really can't say, all right, we're going to stop Blazik. But John and Teron are capable of scoring 15 to 20 a night. Or, hey, we're gonna double, Adam Reynolds, and then Luke Johnson can score inside. And then obviously our bench has been really key for us. Tim Reamer's been just an awesome player off the bench. He's not only a skilled big for us, but he's a great energy guy for us off the bench. He can get rebounds and score. And I think right now one of the keys is no one cares who's scoring. No one. They want to win. This team wants to win. And so our attitude's been great. A lot of these guys have been starting for 2-3 years, right. So they know what it takes to win. And we're lucky enough to have some great players and have have great attitudes. 6
seniors on this squad, so certainly this has got some veteran leadership, and at the same time, it's got some. Hey, this is our season. This is it. We got to go for it. Do you have the same feeling?
Yeah, it's always scary, even with seniors. Sometimes seniors are ready to get out in the real world and can lose focus too. Yeah. So it can go either ways. But this group so far, and again, we're 3 games into the season, and we got a long way to go. They're playing great, and our leadership has been phenomenal too. I really think that we probably have 6 or 7 guys who can start on our team, and the kids that aren't starting have accepted their roles, which again is really important. So, and again, having guys that have been there before, and we have played great schedules in the past. I never feel like we've dodged anybody. We play good teams and prepare ourselves from year to year to play great competition. And I think over the years, because of that, this team has a lot of confidence.
When you look at this squad, you guys will take on you start your conference play, I should say, on Tuesday with a game at Rockford, then Marion at home on the weekend. The following week, Milwaukee Engineering in conference. You'll finish then Edgewood. You have mostly conference games here. Edgewood, Aurora, Marion again before the holidays. You'll have North Central before the break, then Carthage after the break, and then you'll get back into conference. The NACC clearly has a lot of conference games. Your out of conference is CCIW, and I think CCIW. I'm not sure. You can play other teams.
Great scheduling by me. So I wish I can blame someone else for scheduling, but I can't. It's all me.
If you want, by the way, there's a few more teams in the CCIW.
Well, we scrimmaged doggy, so that actually gives us 6 technically. And we only have 5 non-conference, so we can't play the whole league.
Yeah.
Somebody said
it's an interesting play of your SOS here.
Well, it's I knew going into the season we'd have a pretty good team, but Dave, even if you said that we'd be 3-0 after the first 3 games, I would say you'd be nuts. But I really kind of hope this prepares us for our league. Rockford's going to be, they're 4-1 right now. They have some great players. They're playing really well. They have a nice win against Loris at home. They beat Dominican on the road 109, I think, to 105, and Coach Weber does a great job. So we got our hands full against them on Tuesday, and then Marion's one of those teams that 2 years ago took Stevens Point to a 2-point game in the NCAA tournament. So they do a great job also. So, and you know how it is. Conference play is just different. It's just different. Everyone's just prepared a little bit more. We've kind of put ourselves on the radar here to have a little bit of a target on our back, so our kids have to handle that. But we got a tough stretch. But I kind of hope I think our kids are prepared. But you never know.
It's going to be interesting. The question is, are you guys a top 25 team? Of course, some people may argue you may be a top 5 team with those 2 wins. But it's going to be hard to say, well, I got to see what their out-of-conference schedule is. Let me see what they do out-of-conference. It's only one conference, so it's going to be an interesting debate for top 25 voters. I've already been plugged by some. Hey, you ought to consider Benedictine. Hey, you're considered. Trust me. You're going to be considered for the ballot. But how do you now take this? Let's say you get top 25 love. Let's say you enter the top 25 tomorrow or Tuesday, whenever it's released.
Sure,
now your team sees that. Now you've got these 2 big wins out of 3. You're heading into conference play. You're not going to see another non-conference foe until December 22nd in North Central. How do you keep the guys focused on, we beat those guys, we got top 25, but we still have a job ahead of us?
Yeah, you know what? And again, having seniors and juniors and kids that have been in it before, and those kids know how important our conference is. We've known in the past, at least the last couple of years, that the only team that was going to come out of our league wasn't going to be an at-large. It was going to be a team that won the conference tournament. Yeah. And so our kids even know that now. There may not be an at-large in our league, so we want to position ourselves to be top seed in our conference tournament. Obviously, do well, and not put any decisions on maybe the NCAA committee down the road. I just want to tell our guys, embrace it. If we're a top 25 team, embrace it. You earned it, But realize that every night teams are going to give you your best shot. So I think our kids are ready for that challenge. But it's easy to kind of say, all right, we've beaten Wesley, we've beaten Elmhurst, we've beaten Wheaton, and then kind of take the foot off the pedal. I don't think our kids are going to do that. At least I believe they're not. I think they're veteran enough to know that every game we play right now is so important down the road.
You finished tied for first last year in the conference against Aurora at 15-5. You lost in the conference tournament, did not make the NCAA tournament, as you alluded. Concordia, Wisconsin was a game behind you. They're the ones who knocked you out. And, of course, Edgewood is lurking as well. What do we expect of this conference this year? Is Aurora going to be up there with you guys? Who's going to be the top dog, and who's going to be coming out of here representing this conference in the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, Aurora's always good. James does a great job with their team, and they're going to be well prepared, and that's kind of our big rivalry game. So even if we have a bad record, or if they may have a bad record that given year, it's always going to be a great battle. You got to give props to Concordia, Wisconsin. They won our conference tournament last year. They returned, I think, 6 or 7 of their top 8 or 9. So they're going to be a tough team to match up with. And then I think, the Marions, the Lakelands, the Rockfords. I know MSOE has one of the best players in the country in Steck. So our league's a grind. We start on Tuesday. And so it's like 3 months of playing league games, and it's hard. I told our kids last year I was so proud of them how we came back and won the league, because I felt like that was an accomplishment over the course of the season. And so, yes, we did lose to Concordia, Wisconsin in the tournament, which was very disappointing. But what we did over the course of the year, I was more proud of that. And, of course, the NCAA tournament is cherry on top of the sundae. But I'll give you the old standby. We got to take it one game at a time. And right now, Rockford's our opponent. I actually think they're probably one of the most improved teams in our league. It's going to be a tough game on the road. And but the Knack has had some great wins other than us. Aurora beat North Central on Saturday. Concordia, Wisconsin has beaten a WIAC team. So I think our league has gotten a lot of respect in the last couple of weeks, and obviously we want to see it. We want to see the teams in our league do well against other opponents, because that gives us credibility maybe at the end of the year.
NACC again 4-0 in the conference against the CCIW. Of course, 3 of them coming to you, and you're right. You got 2 more times to take them on, North Central and Carthage on either side of Christmas. I think they know you're coming now, but it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. Well, I appreciate you coming on. I know as an alum, you've probably been inundated with the success with text messages and stuff from others around the country appreciating the effort. And so I will just at least acknowledge, very nicely done to start the season. Terrific way to certainly get headlines, certainly get your way on Hoopsville, but at the same time, certainly a great way to start a season, especially for those 6 seniors. And we'll look forward to seeing how you do the rest of the way. I would say if you guys end up being ranked, the last thing you want to do is all of a sudden be the team that took out 2 ranked teams and all of a sudden have everybody take out you as being the ranked team. But good luck, Coach. I certainly appreciate it. As always, I give the coach the final word. Any final things you want to say to those who may be watching?
Well, Dave, I hope you didn't jinx me on that. But anyway.
Oh, you're just coming on the show. People will tell you jinxed me. Don't worry. We already crossed that bridge by me inviting you.
Okay. Well, Dave, I appreciate it. I'm really proud of our team. I'm part of our program. For us to compete against some of the best teams in the country, it's really a testament to our kids and our coaches and our school. Our school has been a great supporter of athletics and our basketball program. And, I look forward to our challenge this year. If we do get ranked, like I said, I'll just tell our kids that, hey, you earned the ranking, but right now it's one game at a time. And right now Rockford's a team we got to beat, and hopefully we'll do that on Tuesday.
Very good. Well, good luck. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Thanks for going by Chuck there for about 3 minutes. I appreciate that as well. And we'll look forward to watching how the Eagles do the rest of the way.
Thanks, Dave. Have a good year, and I appreciate you having us on.
Absolutely. Take care.
You too.
Keith Bunkenburg joining us here on Hoopsville. Again, the alum, leading the team, took over the program in '95. Certainly he's got a good start to this season. They had a good start last year. Remember Southern Vermont beat Williams 2 years in a row? Well, Benedictine has beaten Illinois Wesleyan 2 years in a row. They added on by beating Wheaton and Elmhurst. Conference season starts on Tuesday. They have a lot of games in conference, only 5 out of conference. We'll see how they do. The other games to put on your radar, besides the conference games like Rockford, like Aurora, etc., MSOE, which is Milwaukee Engineering, keep an eye out for North Central and Carthage coming up on both sides of Christmas. Those are another 2 games that are certainly going to give us an idea of how good the Eagles are going to be this season. We're going to take another break. When we come back, we'll jump up to Western New York, talk about the 50th and final Wendy's College Classic. You can listen to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com, the National Association of Basketball Coaches. If you've got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, Hoopsville at D3Hoops.com, or join us on Facebook, Facebook.com/Hoopsville. More Hoopsville right after this.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Division III schools offer academic scholarships instead of athletic scholarships. This really puts the focus that the student athlete needs to maintain that GPA.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III. A lot of people pick schools just based on the sport and don't get that experience.
being a Division III athlete and developing my leadership skills has definitely put my name out there and helped me get more recognition on campus, but more recognition nationwide. I did win the Jostens Trophy, which is based on leadership, academics, and then how well you do on the court.
I'm also the Schwartz Scholar of my class. Schwartz Scholarship is basically a scholarship that is given to a student who's identified as a likely leader.
At the end of the day, it won't matter how they play on the field, it will matter how they do in the classroom.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show tonight. Welcome back. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving. Obviously, we took about 10 days off officially from the shows, as it were. Obviously, we didn't take that much time off as we had the Coach's Corner last time, but we're back and running, and we hope you're enjoying the show. If you got any questions for us, you can always tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. You can email us, hoopsville at d3hoops.com. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Lots to cover. I want to thank Benedictine's men's basketball coach for coming on the show. We will be talking to Hope's men's basketball coach coming up shortly. Also talk to Lynchburg's women's basketball coach, all here on the show coming up. Don't forget, you can also listen to us on the podcast through SoundCloud and iTunes. You can listen to the podcast whenever you want. One of the big things in Division III basketball over the years has been the Wendy's Classic. Obviously not just Division.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show tonight. Welcome back. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving. Obviously, we took about 10 days off officially from the shows, as it were. Obviously, we didn't take that much time off as we had the Coach's Corner last time, but we're back and running, and we hope you're enjoying the show. If you got any questions for us, you can always tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. You can email us, hoopsville at d3hoops.com. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Lots to cover. I want to thank Benedictine's men's basketball coach for coming on the show. We will be talking to Hope's men's basketball coach coming up shortly. Also talk to Lynchburg's women's basketball coach, all here on the show coming up. Don't forget, you can also listen to us on the podcast through SoundCloud and iTunes. You can listen to the podcast whenever you want. One of the big things in Division III basketball over the years has been the Wendy's Classic. Obviously not just Division III basketball, but most of the schools involved are Division III schools. And so it's a big deal. 50th anniversary of that event is taking place this year, and unfortunately it is also the final, at least in its current incarnation, as it were. So we wanted to talk about the 50th anniversary and talk about the future, if there is one, but more importantly, talk about this year. Coming up after the interview here, we will also announce the matchups for this year's Wendy's Classic in both men's and women's basketball. But in the meantime, let's bring in Mike Daley. He's former head coach at Nazareth and the director of the Wendy's Classic. Sir, thank you for joining me on Hoopsville. I certainly appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Dave.
First and foremost, obviously, you were at Nazareth for a number of years. We'll talk about that more in a minute. But you, as a result, got very much involved with this Classic. This is a big deal, this event for the Rochester area, or at least it has been for a long time.
It's been a terrific coming together of the community, the Western New York community, and the 8 colleges that have been involved in it since I've been at Nazareth. This is my 30th tournament, either as a coach or as the director of the tournament. And when you're coaching, you don't realize how much of a part this is of the community. The involvement that the community has in terms of supporting the financially the tournament, and also just being a part of it. It's just a nice coming together of the upstate New York community.
Of course, the other great thing is it's men's and women's involved. So there's a lot of basketball taking place. Not only Division III schools, but certainly a vast majority are Division III. How much, I mean, this is probably an obvious question, but how much has changed in your 30 years, let alone the 50 that this event has taken place?
Well, there's been a number of changes in terms of the women have been a part of it for the last 24 years. This is the 24th year for the women, so next year would be the silver anniversary for that. So that was a great addition. When this tournament started, there were 4 teams to begin with, and then as the programs in the area grew, at the time it started, Nazareth was only a women's school, a women's college at the time, and now they've all expanded to being co-ed. So it's just been a fun time. Other than the NCAA tournament or a conference championship, this is usually the highlight of a team's season if they can come away with a win in this tournament.
Go ahead.
Oh, it's bragging rights in Western New York. A lot of the kids are local. Not all of them, but a lot of them come from the upstate New York area. And it's just been one of the highlights of a lot of them's career, both the men and the women.
You mentioned it's the 30th, and obviously a big deal. It's had a lot of incarnations over the years. The Chase tournament, the J.P. Morgan tournament, it's had a lot of names. That's got to mean a lot for you guys also to have that kind of support from the local community.
That's correct. When I first was involved in the tournament, J.P. Morgan Chase was the corporate sponsor, and it was Lincoln First, and then it changed over to J.P. Morgan Chase. But during the times that the banks ran the tournament, it was called a scholarship tournament, and the reason it was called a scholarship tournament was because each school received a $1,000 scholarship to go into their general fund, and in addition to the banks paying for the tournament. So that was unbelievable. But as times change and the economy changes, and in 2009, it was the year I retired. J.P. Morgan Chase made some cuts, and one of the cuts was the corporate sponsorship of the tournament. And Wendy's of Rochester was kind enough and generous enough to step up and take over the sponsorship of the tournament. And over the last 7 tournaments, they've put in over $100,000 of their own money to keep this thing going. So to say that the community, the banks and Wendy's have had a great effect on the college basketball in upstate New York.
What's the cause for the ending of this tournament? I mean, after 50 years, obviously, there's a lot to be said about keeping it around, but at the same time, I'm sure a lot of people have said maybe it's run its course.
Well, the Greek philosopher once said the only thing constant in life is change. and what's happened is Robert Wesleyan, who was one of the original charter members of the first 4 teams in the tournament, has gone Division II from NAIA Division II to NCAA Division II. And they're getting pressure from their conference to, in terms of strength of schedule, playing 3 Division III teams in their conference. They don't know anything about the tournament other than they're playing 3 Division III teams. And I think they would like to see them strengthen their schedule by playing more NCAA Division IIs. The expansion, the number of teams in the SUNYACs, they've expanded their conference schedule to where they want to play all of their league games on weekends, and that goes right up into the first semester. Usually, what happened when I first took over the tournament was the tournament was always played in December, early part of in January.
Right.
It was played in January, and it was a second semester tournament. And the good thing about it being played then is football was kind of winding down at the time, and college basketball was revving up, and so it was. There was a lot more going on, and college football was pretty much over with by that time. So there was much more of an interest in coverage of the tournament because the newspapers were getting spread as thin, covering Syracuse football and all the other college football teams. So we were getting probably a little bit better coverage in the media. The TV coverage is always great. And with conference schedules at the time, St. John Fisher and Nazareth were independent schools, and now they are affiliated with the Empire 8, and everybody wants to get their at the time wanted to get their conference schedule all in the second semester, and so that caused us to, the ADs to get together and they, well, let's put this thing in the first semester, and so we said, well, let's try to make it as close to a tip-off tournament as we could. So that's why we play when we do, right after Thanksgiving break. And that worked out fine for a while, but now there's more pressure being put on by the SUNYACs with the SUNY Brockport and SUNY Geneseo. So that adds to the mix there in terms of the pressure being put on them and the pressure being put on Roberts. So now we've got three teams that are in a conundrum, I guess you might call it, and they're trying to figure out where, what can we do here. And so this is what's brought it about. It's a shame because it's just a great event, and I can't tell you how great the people have been in terms of supporting us with the program ads. We have a banquet this evening for 350 people with all the student athletes, coaches, and at the head table we have an ambassador from each school, either from the women's program or the men's program. We rotate it back and forth, and they get a chance to talk a little bit about their program and their school. And we have a Hall of Fame, which is it's just a classic. It's like almost like playing in a postseason tournament, playing at the NCAA tournament, and it's just been a thrill for me to be a part of it, both as a coach and as the director. And the administrations have been great. The schools have been great. We move it around. We've rotated the conference, the tournament championship from 3 different sites. We were in the process of trying to get more teams the ability to host in the finals, and but that's something that may come back down the road. Who knows? May happen a year or two from now. I'd like to see it make a comeback sometime down the road, but for right now, I guess it's time after 50 years to take a deep breath, sit back, and reevaluate the situation and see where we can go from here. Make it better.
Yeah, I can totally understand the strength of schedule argument. We certainly hear enough of it in Division III as well. Talking to Mike Daley here, former Nazareth head coach and director of the Wendy's College Classic, of course, 50th annual edition on the men's side this year, as Coach pointed out. Women celebrating their 24th, I believe, or 24th year. Obviously, you coached in it. I think you have the second most wins on record, though Mike Neer's got the most on the men's side, but that's because Mike Neer coached some darn good Rochester squads at the time. What are your favorite memories of being in this event?
My favorite memory, my first year, and I don't know if I've got the second most wins. I've got a few. I've got some, but my first year as a head coach at Division III, I inherited a terrific team from a gentleman by the name of Bill Nelson, who was at Johns Hopkins. Mm-hmm. And the team had previously won 3. We were the only program to win 4 in a row. And they had won 3 coming into my rookie year as a head coach at Nazareth, and we were fortunate enough to win it again. And I thought, boy, this is easy, until I had a great team. I had great young men and terrific chemistry. It was just a great experience. And then reality set in, and I saw how, we lost at Rochester in the finals in 1990, the year they won the national championship. We'd split with them prior to that, and then when we played them in January, we lost them in the finals. And they, and those are things you don't forget. And it's just, that first year though was real special. And I can remember the second, I won a second championship a few years later, and going to church on Sunday after the tournament on Saturday night, and the priest at the end of Mass congratulated the Nazareth program for winning the tournament. I didn't even think he knew who I was. I mean, that's how the community was involved. And I come to find out he was a St. John Fisher graduate, so that was very kind and generous of him.
By the way, I should say third most wins. Bob McVane currently at 44 is ahead of you.
Okay.
Obviously, this tournament has meant a lot to you as you retired and then became director. What was and you talk about the fundraising that took place with this tournament in the last 4 years of the American Cancer Society. What was your goal when you took over as director for this tournament?
Well,
what did you hope you could make it be?
Well, my thinking was this, and I talked to some of the athletic directors about this. I said, for so many years, for 43 years, the community has given to us in terms of the scholarship money for the schools and the support of the program, paying for the program. I said, why don't we try to give back something to the community and help the student athletes understand the meaning of giving and not take things for granted or develop a sense of entitlement. So why don't we try to give back to the community? And we've been able to do that. And we've raised close to $30,000 through the students over the last 7 years, and that's them doing it. We worked with the American Cancer Society and the Hope Lodge, and so we haven't raised $1 million, but we've tried to make an impression on the young student athletes, what this is about. We've toured the Hope Lodge in Rochester. We've had students, we've had speakers come and explain to them where the money's going and what's going on. And it's been just part of what I thought we should be doing as educators, as teachers and coaches. So that's how that came in as a part of the component of it.
Obviously, this tournament has had its influences elsewhere. Many people talked about it, obviously, as being something when it was in January, of course, as being the staple of the turn of the year. And as you said, before conference seasons got back up and running, and when it reincarnated itself into late November, beginning of December, obviously the conversation was just a good measuring stick at the beginning of the year. You also look at the fact that you talk about the strength of schedules and how challenging that is, and obviously not knowing who your opponents are is a mix. What I found interesting about it is you guys leave this to the coaches to determine kind of the seeding, as it were, for the tournament. Can you explain to everybody how that works?
Yeah, well, what we do is it's close to, it was a little bit easier in January to seed the teams. But now what we did, yesterday afternoon, I received emails and phone calls from the coaches, and they gave me their seeds, 1 through 8. And then we go from there, and then we put take the top 4 seeds, and they're cut in stone. And then what we do is, if we may tweak a team or two, because we try to avoid conference teams playing each other in the first round.
Sure.
And if the 2 teams that are hosting happen to match up, we can't have that either. So 1 through 4 are pretty much what it is what it is there. But with the 5 through 8, we may have to make a switch between 6 and 7 or 5 and 6, something to that effect, to avoid a conference matchup, or 2 teams that are hosting would have to play each other. So we want to try to keep them at home. So that's how we do the seeding. So tonight we'll find out at our banquet who's going to be playing who, and that's always an exciting part of it. It makes it a little tough in terms of working with the officials, because they know where they're going and they know what time they'll be playing, but they don't know who they're going to be working for or who at that time. So that makes it kind of an exciting thing, and it's been very interesting. I'll tell you what's great about this tournament and having it in the first semester is the fact that there are no easy games.
Right.
In terms of there's a lot of parity. A couple of years ago, 6 of the 8 teams, I'm not including Roberts because they were Division II, but 6 of the 7 teams, I should say, were either in the conference championship of the tournament, or they went to the NCAA tournament, or they were at worst in second place. So they were, whether it was the Liberty League, the Empire 8, or the SUNYACs. So they were all either in the championship. We had SUNY Geneseo and Brockport went to the NCAA tournament. I believe Hobart went to the NCAA tournament, and Nazareth lost in the conference championship. and then RIT ended up tied for second in the league, in the Liberty League. So it's a lot of parity. And what you find out, there's a lot of schools that will go out and they'll try to schedule some wins. But with this tournament, you'll find out where your weaknesses are, and you'll find out what your strengths are going into conference play. Because anybody that you play in this tournament it's going to be a competitive game. And I always thought that was great. You may not win, but you'll find out a lot about yourself and what you need to get better at and what you are good at and what you continue to need to improve at. So I thought that was always a good benchmark for where I was when I was coaching. And I thought it really did help us as we went along during the season, and we got better. And so and it's exciting basketball. You can't just show up and you're going to win.
Right.
You're going to have to fight tooth and nail to get a win in this tournament. We always used to measure success in this tournament if you could go 2-1. And winning it was great. That's the ultimate. But if you can go 2-1 in this tournament, you've had a good tournament.
Go ahead.
And that was always kind of interesting because you don't want to lose. But we know how good the level of competition is and how much parity there is in this tournament.
Talking with Mike Daley, the director of the 50th Annual Wendy's College Classic. We should be mentioning that we're pre-recorded this. We're not live on the show. He's obviously enjoying the banquet as we speak. They're announcing the brackets there. We'll be announcing them here on Hoopsville momentarily as well, not to trump their announcements, obviously, so our timing is kind of specific. Before we let you go, any favorites for the men or women this side that you see? That have you got a team you think can win it, or do you think it's wide open?
Well, I think that as far as the men's side, I think that St. John Fisher is off to a great start. I mean, we've got 3 undefeated teams so far. SUNY Brockport, SUNY Geneseo, St. John Fisher are all undefeated. Hobart is lost once, and I think Rochester has lost once. Nazareth has lost 2 games. They're 3-2, and so. From the guys' standpoint, I think and Roberts, who's a Division II program, is always going to be right there in the mix. So, and RIT is I think they're 2-2 right now. So, I don't think there's anybody going into this tournament with a losing record on the men's side. On the women's side, Roberts has been very good for the last few years. The University of Rochester has dominated the team, the tournament over the last 10, 12 years. Jim Chibald's done a terrific job there. Geneseo with Scott Hemmer is very good, and I think there's a couple other teams. Brockport is making progress. I think Nazareth will be fairly competitive, be very competitive this year in the tournament. So I think to pick a team would be tough because you got to see this to believe it. But the intensity in these games is the intensity you get in postseason. And it's been great to watch and exciting to watch, and it's great basketball.
Well, I certainly hope to be up there maybe this weekend. That is my goal.
Okay.
Mike, I appreciate you taking the time. As always, I give my guests the final word. Any final thoughts you want to say to those who may be tuning in?
Dave, you do a terrific job with the D3 hoops there. And I've been over the last 15 years you've been doing a part of this. It's been a pleasure to follow it, and it's great to see the support that you give to Division III athletics because it's a joy to follow you and thank you for what you've done.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. If I get up there to Rochester this weekend, I'll look forward to seeing you.
All right. Thanks, Dave.
All right. Take care. Mike.
Have a great day. Bye.
Absolutely. Mike Daley joining us from the Wendy's Classic. So there you have it. Mike Daley joining us from the Wendy's Classic, of course, former coach at Nazareth, as we mentioned. My graphic said he had a record of 30-37 in 22 years. I did my math wrong. That's the difference, and I forgot to add the year for the season. So in 23 seasons of the Wendy's Classic, or the iterations of the name, 30-37 record. He coached at Nazareth for 23 seasons. I somehow typoed that wrong in the graphic, and nonetheless. Anyway, now time to announce the brackets for this tournament. and we are looking forward to seeing this. We are going to do this a little bit differently if we possibly can. We're gonna actually show you the brackets that we got from those running things. I want to thank Dennis, the sports information director at Rochester, and Norm, the sports information director from St. John Fisher, who over the last 6 months, at some point in time, I've had a conversation with about this tournament and gave us the information. We're going to announce these via what we have on a PDF graphic, nothing fancy, just because it's easier for us to do. We certainly hope you'll enjoy this. So we'll start with the men. We'll start at the top of the bracket, work our way down, and then we'll get to the women as well. Let's look at the men's bracket. And number 1 team is St. John Fisher. They will play a game against or at Nazareth, and they will play number 8 RIT. As you can see there, that is a 6 o'clock game for those teams. This is a St. John Fisher. Obviously, we saw at Hoopsville Classic recently. Certainly played very good basketball there. St. John Fisher coming in nationally ranked as well, as you certainly know. Of course, we'll have a new poll by then, but as of tonight and the preseason poll, St. John Fisher sitting number 22. St. John Fisher 3-0 coming into this. They will take on RIT. Excuse me as I click some buttons to make sure I have records correct. Rochester Tech comes in 2-2 overall with losses to Brooklyn and Goucher, and then 2 wins in a row to Deauville and Hamilton. So they're on a bit of a roll. Number 4 versus number 5. This game will take place at Hobart at the same time. It is Brockport versus Rochester. Brockport State comes into this with a 2-0 record with wins over St. Lawrence and Farmingdale State. They will take on the Rochester squad, certainly looking to improve upon the years in the past, and they're off to a good start with a 4-1 record. A 17-point loss to Hobart to start the season, but wins over Keystone, Vassar, Nazareth, and Johnson State to go 4-1, and obviously their game will be against Brockport. Those games taking place at Hobart. We scroll down to the bottom side of this bracket. Number 2 team is SUNY Geneseo. Geneseo State coming into this, having a pretty good game. This is the 8 o'clock game at Nazareth, or I should say pretty good season. Geneseo is 4-0 overall with wins over Medaille, Alfred, Misericordia, and Morrisville State. And most of those have, a couple of them have been tight, but the last 2 have not been. Misericordia 88-63, Morrisville State 89-65 were the wins there. They will take on Nazareth, who has certainly been in the conversation over the years, but is off to an interesting start this year. 3-2, wins over Deauville, Sage, and Bluffton to start the season, but losses to Buffalo State and Rochester by a total of 5 points in those 2 games. That is the 8 o'clock game, of course, at Nazareth, and of course Nazareth is hosting. On the bottom of that, Hobart will be playing Roberts Wesleyan, the Division II. Hobart will be hosting this game, obviously. Hobart coming in as a 3 seed of this. They are 3-1 overall with wins over Keuka. They do have a 17-point win over Rochester and a win over Scranton. Certainly solid wins for the Statesmen, but a loss to Buffalo State by 20 before Thanksgiving certainly has some people kind of wondering what's going on. Forgive me as I type in Roberts Wesleyan basketball here, because I don't have that usually fresh in this Division III world. But Roberts Wesleyan coming in, Division II and Division III, or I should say NCAA Division II team, 0-3 on the season, losses to Holy Family, Wilmington, and Adelphi so far this season. So there you go. Those games taking place forgive me, a reminder, those games are taking place on Wednesday, December 2nd, again at Nazareth and Hobart. Roberts is then hosting the consolation game, so the losers of St. John Fisher RIT of that game and Brockport Rochester will face off at Roberts, and then Geneseo Nazareth loser and Hobart's Roberts Wesleyan loser will play at 8. Those and the semifinals and championship are at Rochester. Those are on Friday and Saturday, the 4th and 5th. So there you go on the men's side. Now let's take a look at the women's side of things. These games be taking place on Tuesday, December 1st, and semifinals on Thursday, December 3rd, with a championship on the 5th. Of course, consolation rounds as well. We will do the same thing, and we'll start at the top of this one. And this is where you're going to see a little bit of the Division II mix get a little bit more pronounced here. as you will see. Number 4, St. John Fisher will take on Brockport in this. This game is at Nazareth. So St. John Fisher taking on Brockport. Brockport comes in 2-0 on the season, 72-46 win over Morrisville State, and a win over Deauville, 72-50. St. John Fisher on the women's side, in the meantime, is entering 3-0 on the season with wins over New Jersey City, Rutgers, Newark, and Wells, and most of those big. Rutgers, Newark was a tight battle. They also played Union earlier today. I don't have that score on me as of yet, so that is the 6 o'clock game at Nazareth. William Smith is also playing host. They are playing host to the number 1 Robert Wesleyan squad. They are the top seed in this, and obviously that makes a difference. They are 5-0 to start the season in Division II, with a win over Cleveland State, a win over Nyack, Post University, 2 wins over them as they took them on twice in back-to-back games at 2 different locations, a win over Georgian Court, and a win over Lemoyne. So Roberts Wesleyan women certainly off to a very good start. They will take on the host and the 8th seed, William Smith. Of course, that's Hobart William Smith, for those of you who are not familiar with how that works. The squad is off to a 1-3 start with losses to Rochester, Colby, and Cortland, but a win over Bridgewater State. Certainly some of those teams are not that shabby, but Colby's loss was 72-39, so William Smith certainly off to a bit of a rough start. On the bottom side of that bracket, this game at Nazareth, it is number 3, Rochester. Rochester will be taking on Nazareth College. Rochester, the 3 seed, is 4-0 with wins over William Smith, Stevenson, Ohio Northern, and Oswego State, and scoring more than 65 points in all 4 of those contests. They will take on Nazareth. Nazareth, the 6th seed. This game is at Nazareth, and Nazareth is also off to a 4-0 start. With wins over York of New York, Bryn Mawr, Fredonia State, and Medaille. We would argue a couple of those are not world beaters, certainly, and that may be why the coaches have them 6. But again, as Mike pointed out, some things can adjust as well due to matchups and such. And then the game at William Smith at 6 o'clock, SUNY Geneseo will take on RIT. Geneseo State comes into this record of 2-1 overall as a 2 seed, a loss to Gettysburg by 3, but a win over St. Joseph's and Vassar. Certainly an impressive start for them. They will also take on RIT, the 7th seed. RIT off to a 3-0 start, so that's an interesting RIT. But Massachusetts College, Smith, and Hamilton are those wins. Of course, Rochester RIT was 12-13 last season. So there you go with that bracket. As we widen it out just a little bit, opening rounds at Nazareth and William Smith. Rochester will host the semifinals as well. Thursday for the women, Friday for the men championship. First and third place games on Saturday. Consolations will be at Roberts Wesleyan on the women's side, and then Geneseo for the 5th and 7th place games. We should point out Roberts Wesleyan will also host the consolation game on the men's side. The 5th and 7th place games will move to St. John Fisher. So there you go, the 50th and final Wendy's Classic taking place up in Rochester. I do plan to get there. I have a reservation for a hotel if that makes it worth it. But we will certainly be checking many factors like weather, any other snags that may keep us from getting up there. But we hope to be there for Saturday's games at Rochester. We'll take in those. We may try to get over. Obviously, we'll be able to see all men and women's games as a result. So we probably won't get over to the consolation games at St. John Fisher, but anything can change. We'll see what happens. For more information, go to d3hoops.com, obviously, as we have plenty of information there. You can also go to wendyscollegeclassic.com. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk Hope men's basketball. There's some saying they may be the best team in the country. That's interesting. They certainly have a couple wins to prove that, and a loss that's not too shabby. We'll talk to their head coach, Greg Mitchell, coming up here on Hoopsville. You're watching Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com and the National Association of Basketball Coaches. More Hoopsville right after this.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
I know sports is important, but having the academic part along with it is a big plus.
I've discovered in myself, a newfound ability to overcome adversity at all different angles. At a Division III school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual. The end result in my mind is you just become a very well-rounded person.
Before I came into college, I didn't really think I'd be able to balance so much. It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
With a D3 school, there's a lot of time for other opportunities. The coaches expect a lot of you during soccer, but after soccer, that's your own personal time to really find out who you are and other opportunities that you can pursue.
By balancing all of my interests, basketball, my leadership skills, and academics, I'm able to better prioritize my life and to manage it.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show. If you got any questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us hoopsville@d3hoops.com or join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville. Not sure why, but we had some technical difficulties in the last segment, and we got it back up and running, but we hope to solve that shortly down the road, figure out what happened. But we're behind schedule as a result, so we're going to try and get to the next segment if I can get it to come online. What's interesting is it doesn't seem to want to. There we go. All right, so we're going to be ready to talk to our next guest. We're going to stay with men's basketball. We're going to switch to women's basketball after this and wrap up our show. Coming up still, Lynchburg women's basketball coach Abby Pyzik Smith will join us, and then we'll wrap up the show later. We weren't going to go into overtime because of the technical difficulties. We'll go into overtime just a little bit tonight, but not too bad. I already got a question on Twitter about women's basketball and WashU. We'll certainly talk that in the final segment. Now we'll talk about a team that's certainly getting some buzz as well. Number 16, Hope men's basketball team. Off to a terrific start to start the season with wins over La Crosse. Last year's champ Stevens Point by 12. Beat a very good Aquinas squad, 95-61, and then lost to probably one of the best teams in NAIA, Cornerstone, 73-67. Big games coming up, so we figured we better talk to the man who's helping bring Hope back into the national spotlight, and that's their head coach, Greg Mitchell, who joins us on the Hoopsville hotline. Sir, welcome back to Hoopsville, sir.
Hi, Dave. Thank you. Appreciate
I should say welcome to the show. First and foremost, congratulations on the start to the season. You're in your second year, and obviously last year 18-9 didn't finish badly, but you guys had a bit of a rougher start to the season. You guys are getting right off the ground this year.
Well, we are, and we certainly benefited from going through that last year and having a great crew back that went through that grind, and we like where we are right now. A lot of work to do, but like you said, we're off to a pretty good start, and just certainly want to push the right buttons and keep us going that path to reach our potential.
I know you guys wanted to challenge yourselves. I know a lot of people in that area wanted to challenge themselves. Stevens Point is on a lot of people's schedules this season. That was part of a back-to-back opening weekend for you guys, even though it was technically the second weekend of the season, where you played La Crosse first on a Friday night and then traveled to Stevens Point. That second game's a trap game in many ways. You got your opening game against Oshkosh, and while you might be up for the Stevens Point game, you're tired. You're traveling between those two destinations, between La Crosse and Stevens Point, and you still get a 12-point victory. You had to be pleased with that result.
Well, we were very pleased. I'll be honest. We played with great energy. Our guys were looking forward to that. I think nobody does it like Coach Semling, and I really feel last year when we played them and they got us by 12 or 14 at our place, it quite honestly felt like 20 or 30. They just put on a clinic. And we talked a lot about that game and just said, fellas, this is a team that does it the right way, and kind of took notes and we remembered it. So, we were ready for it. It meant a lot to our guys. We've got 5 seniors that it was their last chance to play there, and so it was a great win. He graduated quite a bit, but when you have a program like his, they reload and put great pieces back on the floor. So yeah, it meant a lot, and I think we did it the right way. We did it at the defensive end of the floor, played a lot of energy, and had a good balanced attack from inside and out. So
I know that.
Again, great way to roll.
Well, I was going to say, I know that series is important to both schools. It's been around for a little bit of time. I know you guys have tweaked it to work on it to get it just right for you guys, and I know you'll still continue playing, but it's almost kind of a double thing for you. You want them to play. Stevens Point is because, as you said, they do it the way you want to do it. At the same time, you're playing them because it certainly helps with that out-of-conference scheduling.
Oh, absolutely, and it certainly helps our opportunity. You got to win those games, though, and I think you can look at it both ways. It strengthens up your schedule. It helps your ranking, but I think the other thing too, especially playing them early, it'll expose you. It'll let you know what you have to work on. And that's what you want early in the season. We don't want any false hope. We certainly want to know what we've got to do to get done and play play the right way to make the adjustments that we need to make. And he does it. They do it so well at both ends of the floor that if you're not ready, it'll certainly expose you. So we love the challenge, that's for sure.
This is a team that's certainly got plenty of talent. You took over last year after former coach departed in the offseason, and you go in and get an 18-9 record with this team. As we said, kind of a slow start to start the season, losing 3 out of 4. Whitewater, Stevens Point, and Aquinas beat you. You got the win over Cornerstone. Kind of interesting you flipped those roles this year around. Listen, we don't know a lot of Aquinas and Cornerstone in Division III. Some say Aquinas' win kind of showed that Hope's maybe one of the best teams in Division III. The Cornerstone loss shouldn't be taken that way because Cornerstone's probably at the top number 1 team in their, or if not number 1, number 2 team on their side of the NIIA. From your vantage point, what do we take from that Aquinas and that Cornerstone game, and how do we read into that and understand what those games meant?
Yeah, it's a great question. I know, we wanted to make sure we gave, both opponents equal billing and attention, and we played very, very well Friday. I'll be honest. It was a great balanced attack, both ends of the floor. We really turned it loose the second half and got everybody involved, so that felt great. And we knew, we knew what the Cornerstone game was going to be like. He has all his guys back from a national championship team, and having beaten them last year, we knew they'd be ready. I'll be honest, we kind of felt like we let one slip away. We led the majority of the game, probably 95% of the game. It just didn't finish the right way. Had some real just empty possessions, a few turnovers, missed some key free throws, and lost a little focus of what got us to that point, which, last night was our bigs. They just did an awesome job. Harrison Blackledge and Brock Benson were virtually unstoppable. But, credit to Cornerstone. They made some big plays, and I will tell you, they're extremely athletic. It's a great basketball team. We love the opportunity to play teams like that, and we'll take a lot away from that game last night.
Obviously, you have deep roots with Hope. You're a graduate. You played 4 years for this program. You made it to the NCAA tournament. I think you got as far as the Elite Eight. You certainly know what to expect, what is expected, I should say, of Hope basketball. You know what's expected in the MIAA and the Great Lakes region. What's it mean to take over this program and now have a team maybe in front of you that they can do something special this season?
Well, it's a privilege. I'll be honest. This place means so much to me, and just blessed to be in this role amongst an unbelievable coaching staff and great men to coach that come from outstanding families. And we're in a position where we feel we can do something pretty special. But that being said, I know it's coaching jargon, but we've got to get better every single day. Our schedule is tough in our league. Our league right now is really balanced. You have to be ready every single night. Nothing can be taken for granted. I think our guys get that. There's a sense of resolve and commitment about these guys that I think you need to have, you need to see. And we just get really good balance. It's a team that honestly nobody cares who leads us as long as we're getting the W. So, my job and our job as a staff is to make sure we just continue to hold these guys accountable, build every single day. It's a competitive group. It's a group that can be special. We certainly are going to enjoy this ride and make sure we take advantage of every opportunity we have.
This is a junior and senior loaded team. It almost feels like this is the year to take advantage of it. On the roster, you've got listed 5 seniors. You've played 4. On the roster, you have 7 juniors, and you've played, I think, all 7. This feels like a team that, yes, you'll lose a bunch of seniors. You'll certainly be loaded again for next year, but you seem to have the right mix that you want to take advantage of things.
Well, I think you're right, and I think the key, when you say a lot, we've got great depth, and we believe in anybody we put on the floor. Our practices are incredibly competitive. I guess I'll go back to Friday night against Aquinas. We had a substantial lead, and with 8 or 9 minutes to go, we've got essentially 5 guys on the floor that don't get a lot of playing time, and they're going up against Aquinas as starters, and we were able to expand the lead, and we took a lot of pride in that. It meant a lot to our guys, and that's the kind of depth we have. It makes our practices extremely competitive. So you're right. I mean, we've got a chance to do something. Our guys realize that, and as anybody knows, when you have seniors that are going to take that jersey off for the last time when the season ends, it's special, and they're dialed in, and it means a lot to them, and we're certainly going to go as far as they take us.
Junior Harrison Blackledge is leading the team right now, 14 points a game, hauling in 3.5 rebounds. Brock Benson, the senior, 12.8 points a game and 6 rebounds. Ben Gardner, senior, 12.5 points a game and 5 rebounds. Sam Otto, a senior, 9 points a game. Obviously, everybody is doing something here. We should mention Gardner, by the way, 4.3 assists a game. Everyone's doing something. You're getting a lot of depth, but it's certainly those 4. And we should mention that Gardner, Benson, and is it Edison as well?
Edson, yes.
Edson, sorry. All have a chance of getting 1,000 career points this year. So that just, when you read that, screams at me experience, veteran leadership.
Yeah, well, you're exactly right. And I think when you get, anytime you talk about a team that has a special season, more often than not, that description is senior leadership. And we talk about that a lot as a staff. You get guys in here that, as a freshman and sophomore, they just want to get on the floor. Maybe as a junior, they'd love to start. And as a senior, man, they just want to win. And these guys are winners. They're guys that have been in a lot of battles. Don't have, that big, championship label to call their own in the tournament, whether it be a conference tournament or down the road. And so they've set some goals pretty high. They're working extremely hard for them. It was a great fall, from conditioning to lifting to everything that led into this season. And even though we had a little hiccup last night, I certainly like where we are. We expect a real resilient group tomorrow practice. And, when you have lofty goals and you're willing to put the work in that goes alongside those lofty goals, you got a chance to reach your potential. And certainly that's what we're looking for.
We'll talk about conference in just a minute, but I want to talk out of conference quickly because coming up, you're hosting a Midwest Challenge at the DeFoss Fieldhouse. You'll play Wheaton on Friday and Carthage on Saturday from the CCIW. Calvin, on the other side of things, will play Carthage and then Wheaton. That's a big weekend for you guys. Another nice out-of-conference setup for everything. Outside of that, after that, you'll have Platteville and probably last year an underperforming Hanover squad before playing out of division with Grace Bible and then taking on Messiah and Beloit in Orlando. So you got an interesting mix of non-conference, but you've already had a test to start the season. You got a really good test coming up this weekend.
Oh, absolutely. It's a great challenge. And, when we went to Carthage last year and played both of those teams, that's really where we felt we got some things going. Spending time together. You make mention of the long trip to Wisconsin. And, I think those are great opportunities to build. And that's where we started to build last year. So we have great respect for both programs. We know they're gonna come in here and be excited to play in a great environment. And we know we're going to be ready for both. And we're looking forward to the challenge and get things going again.
Yeah, in conference, you guys are picked to win the MIAA. You finished second, 2 games behind Calvin last year, tied with Trine, who was 1 win less than you guys in the overall record. And then Alma and the rest were kind of lurking. What to expect from this season? If you guys don't win the conference, who can win the conference?
Well, that's a great question, and hopefully we do. But if we know it's not going to be easy. I think what Trine brings back and what Alma brings back is just a lot of experience, a lot of talent. The experience thing, like you had talked about. On Calvin, they graduated a bit, but Coach Vanderstreet gets those guys to compete and rebound and defend so well. And on down the line, I mean, we had, if you check our scores from last year, the team at the bottom of our conference is within a possession of the team at the top of the conference on a given night. So we love the balance. We love the idea that you got to be ready to go every single night, especially on the road. Hey, we hope when the dust settles, it's us, but nothing will be taken for granted. We know we've got to be ready every single night, and that's what we're prepared to be.
Is there a dark horse in this conference?
I don't know if it's a dark horse or not. I mentioned Alma. I think as well as Sam had those guys playing last year at the end of the season, and he literally has everybody back. Again, I don't know if that's a dark horse, but that's a very, very dangerous team that can play. And Coach Miller trying to get his guys to play so hard and so efficiently and disciplined. Again, probably not a dark horse, but guys that we certainly know that can get the job done.
You guys missed out on the NCAA tournament last year, going 18-9 overall. Granted, you had 2 of those games against non-Division III opponents, and certainly tide has changed a lot there. Calvin still plays quite a few non-Division IIIs. You have 3 of them in your schedule. You two kind of known for not playing Division IIIs only because of where you're located. Obviously, Aquinas and Cornerstone are around the corner. There's reasons for that. But I got a sense, especially looking at this schedule and looking at the past schedules and such, that a little of the mentality has changed. And you talk about traveling a little bit. Have you guys said, listen, we got to schedule a few more D3s, and is there ever going to be a time that you don't play Aquinas and Cornerstone?
Well, as of now, we're planning on continuing that. I know they're close. Like you said, proximity has a lot to do with it, and budget. It is a challenge to play all D3s where we're located and stay within budget. Next year we're planning on heading to Wisconsin Stout to start the season. So, for us, it's a balance. The Aquinas Cornerstone games are fun. They're good, close rivalry games. So as of now, I think those will continue. But scheduling is not a perfect science, and we've got all kinds of factors to consider. But right now, we like it because it's demanding, it's tough, and it certainly prepares us for our conference schedule.
Well, that is certainly the case. Conference schedule obviously doesn't really kick off and get in earnest until January 6th. You'll play out of conference between now and then. And we certainly look forward to seeing you. Obviously, a trip to Orlando. Nothing wrong with that right after Christmas. I would say, considering your location to Lake Michigan, which is knocking on the door at Lake Michigan, that might be one of the smarter moves. The question is whether you get there and whether you get back.
Exactly. Well, our guys are looking forward to it. They deserve that. And anybody that knows being on this side of Lake Michigan, we just get blistered. So. Yeah. If we can find the sun a little bit and find some more, it's going to be a great reward. It'll be fun to play down there. We got a good alumni base, and the neat thing about the trip too is our women's program is going, so we're going to play some doubleheaders with our women, and that'll be a pretty cool experience to be Coach Morehouse's group. Yeah,
that'll be fun to see you guys all down there. Certainly staying warm compared to everybody else. Before I let you go, if I've asked this on a couple of coaches, but if we were to walk into the locker room and look at the grease board or the chalkboard and it's got the goals of the season on there, what's the number one goal?
It's a great question. We're trying to hold these guys to a very, very high standard. In all honesty, what we have on our board right now are all-time records of Hope's past teams in certain categories. And not to say that this is the greatest Hope basketball team of all time, but yet we want these guys to understand what the bar is, and we believe in these guys. So we're trying to track where we are just in relation to the guys that have taken the court, represented Hope the right way, and played to their potential. That's our goal, and if we fall short of some of those, I think we can live with the results. But again, you shoot for lofty goals, and then you see where you settle in. But love this team, love our coaching staff, and certainly love the path that we're on, and can't wait to see where we can take this thing.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the show. I certainly appreciate it. Good luck the rest of the way, especially this weekend with Wheaton and Carthage. As always, though, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
Well, first of all, I just appreciate the opportunity. I have such an affinity for Hope basketball, and you'd give us the time to talk about it is a blessing. And it's a great place. We're expecting some great things from our guys, and again, just appreciate the chance to talk about Hope basketball.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Congratulations on the start to the season. We'll look forward to keeping track of the Flying Dutchman the rest of the way.
Hey, I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Greg Mitchell joining us from Hope. Again, off to a 3-1 start. That one lost to Cornerstone by 6. Those games all took place in Grand Rapids, where obviously Calvin is located at Cornerstone University. They beat Aquinas the night before. Of course, a win over Stevens Point. Nothing shabby about that. Wheaton and Carthage coming up. Certainly good tests for them as well. By the way, Stevens Point off to a 3-1 start. That Hope loss, their only blemish on the season. When we come back, we'll switch gears, talk women's basketball. We'll head down to Virginia, talk to an alum who's bringing our program maybe to bigger and better things this season. Lynchburg's expected, or at least picked, to win the ODAC. Can they do it? Their biggest opponent they've already done with for the season, believe it or not. We'll talk to Abby Smith coming up here on Hoopsville. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville@d3hoops.com, or join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville. More Hoopsville after this with Lynchburg's head coach. And, of course, coming up, we'll wrap up the show after that. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com, the NABC. Back with more Hoopsville right after this.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Division III schools offer academic scholarships instead of athletic scholarships. This really puts the focus that the student athlete needs to maintain that GPA.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III. A lot of people pick schools just based on the sport and don't get that experience.
Being a Division III athlete and developing my leadership skills has definitely put my name out there and helped me get more recognition on campus, but more recognition nationwide. I did win the Jostens Trophy, which is based on leadership, academics, and then how well you do on the court.
I'm also the Schwartz Scholar of my class. Schwartz Scholarship is basically a scholarship that is given to a student who's identified as a likely leader.
At the end of the day, it won't matter how they play on the field, it will matter how they do in the classroom.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show. Post-Thanksgiving, obviously. First time we're on Sunday after Thanksgiving. Of course, we've been on the air a few Sundays here. We'll be through the rest of the 2015 part, actually all the way through the rest of the season, except for some holidays, obviously. If we didn't normally do this, we'd have 2 more shows left to go here in 2015 on Thursdays. We're glad we added Sundays because there's certainly a lot to talk about in Division III basketball. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville@d3hoops.com. Join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville, scrolling at the bottom of your screen. Going to switch gears, talk women's basketball, and certainly we could talk to the favorites and talk to the top teams in the top 25, but we're going to have all season to talk to them. Some of these earlier shows, we get a chance to talk to other coaches and other teams that will be making headlines in some capacity or another, and one of those certainly is out of ODAC. The men's side certainly gets a lot of national attention, as there's always teams vying to get deep in the national championship. On the women's side, things are slowly evolving probably in that direction. Want to talk to them and see what's going on. You have a couple choices. You could talk to Eastern Mennonite. You could certainly talk to some of the stalwarts in the conference. We wanted to talk to the team that the coaches have felt will win the ODAC this season. Not that there's any pressure there. And joining us on the Hoopsville hotline, we should say Skype, via Skype, Abby Pyzik Smith, Lynchburg's head coach. Coach, welcome to Hoopsville.
Hi, Dave. Thanks so much for having us. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking the time, and thank you for this season's first Skype interview. We appreciate you using the technology.
We like to be number one. We like to be number one.
I'm not that surprised. I think when we had Lynchburg's men on last year, we were Skyping it as well.
Well, good.
Let's talk about the season so far. Off to a 3-2 start. You're 1-0 in conference. We'll get to that in a bit. With a win over William Smith, a loss, surprising loss maybe by 19 to Mary Washington, a win over Stevens, a loss to Denison by 23, and then that win against Eastern Mennonite. We'll talk about that. I want to talk about the losses quickly because apparently early in this season when you guys lose good. I mean, 67-48 to Mary Washington, 59-36 to Denison. Is this one of those where, we're not going to win, forget it?
No, it's been a roller coaster. That's how I explain it. And I've kind of seen two teams so far. And we always talk to our team about finding our identity in these first 2 months in November and December before we're in full swing of conference play. And so we're definitely taking full advantage of doing that. And I can honestly say I've never had a team that's won big and then drop so low the next game. And I think the key for us right now is that, we are very strong team-wise, basketball-wise. We don't have that one, we graduated Shannon Allen last year that was very offensive-minded and really carried a lot of that weight. And when we hit a little bit of adversity on the offensive end, we've kind of struggled to respond on that. And I think it's just taken us a few games to kind of figure that out. And the last 4 teams we played have been, history-wise NCAA contenders. And so I think it's been a really good test to see where we are and a really good test to see how we respond to that. And now it's just to kind of find that consistency. We know what we can do when we're great, and we're trying to just get to that as a norm.
Well, the game against Mary Washington, you shot 22.5% from the floor, 13 for 58. Against Denison, you shot 14 for 59 at 23.7%. Of course, against Eastern Mennonite, you guys shot 43%. Clearly, and as everyone would know, looking at a box score, that can be indicative of what's going on. Clearly, you had 2 really bad shooting nights.
Right. And I think, we figured out to kind of run our offense a little deeper, to work on different things along those lines, and to do a lot of the different little things that create that offensive success. And so instead of kind of trying to go one-on-one, we've really tried to balance ourselves and work as a team to kind of get through those lumps or those slumps when it comes to our shooting. And so I feel like we're growing in really positive steps, and I'm excited to kind of see where we go as we get into this last stretch in December and then into January.
You also played a kind of a wide plethora of teams, let's call it. William Peace, not exactly known for making headlines in Division III, 9-16 last year, 5-20 the year before. Haven't had more than 11 wins, or the most they've had are 11 wins back in 2009. They're off to, though, a 3-1 start. Though nothing of substance. Obviously, you guys are about the toughest team they had on that. Mary Washington, of course, is always a perennial favorite. You would expect them to win 20 games. If they don't, they come darn close. Denison is certainly a solid team, but all over the place. But usually 20-win season, though 15-12 last year, 13-13 back in 2013. And, of course, Eastern Mennonite, who's been coming along, been winning 20 games pretty regularly here for about 5 years. So you kind of had an easy one there with William Peace, and then you challenged yourself with Mary Washington and Denison, and then into conference play. I would suspect that if you had your druthers, William Peace isn't necessarily the team you want to start with, but at the same time, I can probably see a mentality of at least getting out the door.
Right. I think it was we were able to give our freshmen some time a little bit early and to get everybody kind of in sync and to get that first win. And so I think that was a really great place to kind of go on the road and do that. And that environment there is pretty tough. It's a small gym. They pack it. It's really loud. And historically in the past, it's always been rather close for us. Even when we've had really successful years, we've just struggled mentally doing that. And they're a very athletic, quick team, which we'll see, when we get to the Virginia Wesleyans and EMU and teams like that. And so I think our mentality was to kind of, get our feet wet, getting going that way until we knew we had this pretty big stretch in front of us of playing some really top contenders.
Your team is somewhat young. You got 3 seniors on it. And you have a couple of them leading the way, but you also have a couple sophomores leading the way so far this season. Obviously, Janie Forbush is a leader on the squad, 12 points a game. She's also hauling down 5.5 rebounds a game. She's a senior, certainly. But you have two sophomores, and forgive me if I screw this up, but Olivia DeFrancesco, 10 points a game. Carolyn Nauman, 10 points a game. And then another senior in Sammy Goldsmith at 8 points a game. Of course, Nauman also holding down about 7 rebounds a game. Again, early in the season, but certainly an indication there you've got a mix of senior leadership and some youth that are going to help you this season.
Definitely. I think, when you look at our roster, we have 5 upperclassmen, juniors and seniors wise, and then 3 sophomores and then 7 freshmen. So we're pretty 50-50 on freshmen to returners. And we're really excited because, as you can see, our seniors are leading the way, and every day they're learning their leadership to continue to push and push for that consistency on the floor regularly. And then we've had really great help in our sophomores. I've been really proud of Olivia and Caroline both stepping up. They've had great impact in our games against some great teams. And so that confidence that they've brought carried over to our EMU win this past Tuesday, and we're really excited about their growth. And then we're really excited about our freshman class. I think that's the one thing that our seniors and our upperclassmen do a great job of. They really mentor our young ones very solidly. And so, one of the reasons why Olivia and Caroline are stepping up so well after a year is because they followed and learned our system and figured that out. And so we're really excited about our depth as it grows. And, youth keeps us fresh, and old heads keep us very strong and know what that experience is and what they need to do night in, night out, and have had their feet wet on different floors. And so we're trying to use that blend to really push us at any given night. And I think at any given night, any of those players can step up.
You, of course, have a unique opportunity. I mean, you're in your 6th season, I think, at Lynchburg, if memory serves.
It is.
But obviously a graduate of Lynchburg, a member of their Hall of Fame class of 2014. And of course, a 2004 graduate. You were a 2-time ODAC champ, or honoree, I should say. First team, I think, once in those. But then you went off to other divisions.
I did.
You left and went to a Division II school for a year, then a Division I school for several years, and then came back to Division III at Washington and Lee in the conference for a couple of years as an assistant. It's kind of a different route. Usually, D1 assistants don't tend to come back to Division III as assistants. Kind of tell us about your career path and what it's taught you and why that path in particular.
Sure. I had a great experience here as a player and left, and actually had an opportunity to stay. And I didn't actually know I wanted to get into coaching right off the bat. I had done my undergrad in athletic training and had worked with a lot of coaches while I was here. And my first job when I went D2 out to Indiana, I kind of grown up watching Hoosiers and really wanted an adventure and was just ready to do that. I'm one of 5, so family is really big, and had been close to home for a while and branched out to Virginia, and then wanted to go to Indiana and went out there. There were more railroad tracks than stoplights.
Yes.
It was a whole different culture. It was very, transition wasn't there. It was hold the ball and move it, and very fundamental, and was just a really great experience. And while I was there, I taught, I did AT, and I coached. And during that year, I really figured out my passion was in coaching. And then I had done a bunch of summer camps while I was actually a player at Lynchburg. And one of those places was at Davidson College. And so the end of my first year, I got a phone call from their staff saying, hey, we have a third assistant spot open. We remembered you. We'd really like you to come apply for this. And I also love the state of North Carolina, which a lot of my players on my roster are from, and decided, hey, this is a great opportunity. I need to jump on that. And so went over there and had a great 3 years. Had one of the winningest seasons in program history on the women's side, went to NIT, and was there when Stephen Curry was there during his career. So that was really an unbelievable time. I really enjoyed myself. And Davidson is very D3-like. It's not a huge school. It's very similar to the D3 world. So to me, while it says D1, it was very similar to that D3 family tradition-oriented feel. And so after 3 years, I had a chance to stay, and people think I'm crazy. I turned it down. I knew my heart was kind of in coaching. I knew I wanted to be a D3 coach. I knew I kind of wanted that balance in my life, and went to Washington and Lee, which worked under a really great mentor, Mandy King, who's now at Kane, and was there for 2 years. We won a championship, and then Lynchburg opened up. And I'm really a big believer that everything happens for a reason. Came here, and we weren't very, very great when I got here. It was a battle, and I'm pretty competitive. So those first 2 years were tough, and Shannon Allen was in that first class, and then we built in with Sammy Cheney and Sarah Kuhn in the senior class, and really jumped in that third year. And this senior class with a winning season will be the first class in program history that will have 4 winning seasons. And so we've really tried to make that impression to create a winning tradition here, and really excited about what we've built. And I think I have the best job working for your alma mater and being able to give everything it's given to you every day. And, sometimes I want to jump onto the court in my heels and play myself, but realize those days are over. And, but I think my players share that passion. We've all worn the jersey. One of my assistants is an alum. And so we really, truly love Lynchburg. And I think that's been a really big push in our success.
We should point out you grew up in Maryland, outside of Baltimore. Of course, went to school in Baltimore. And by the way, when we say you went to school in Baltimore, we're not talking college. We are talking high school. After 20-some-odd years here, I'm still learning that. And then off to Lynchburg, as you point out. I think the elastic band for leaving your family's nest is about 8-9 hours, as you got as far away as Indiana and then came back. You talk about the ODAC and certainly getting to know it as a player, getting to know it when you're an assistant at W&L and now as a head coach. You guys fell in the conference championship last year to Virginia Wesleyan, missing out on making the NCAA tournament. This year, you're picked to be number 1 in this conference. You've played your biggest foe already, at least in the rankings, and that's Eastern Mennonite, in the only game that you will play them in the unbalanced schedule. What has that game told you about your team? What's it telling you about what this ODAC might be like?
Well, I think that the ODAC is a really special league, and I think it's continued to raise the bar competitively over the years since being a player to an assistant. It's really, it's had some really special teams in the past, and I know it will continue to have special teams in the future. And, we knew Tuesday was really important, and we had, I'm a big person on preparation, and so we had played. That game was 3 games in 4 days for us. And we had specifically scheduled that because our ODAC tournament is 3 games in 4 days. And so we really prepared that like we would be going into the championship, playing an EMU, playing a top team in our conference. And we had learned a lot about ourselves that weekend. And we knew, EMU hadn't lost on their floor since February 11, 2012 to an ODAC school. And so we knew coming in, we were, not only, taking the target on our back, but also going to have to break a little history on EMU's end. And I thought our character and our trust amongst ourselves and how we were, the first half, it was 23-22. It was a good assault. They were hitting shots, we were hitting shots. And then I really thought we kept punching consistently and showed a lot of grit down the stretch. And it showed a lot of character of my team. And that depth is huge for us as we go forward, because we'll have other really tough road games ahead when we travel to Macon, when we travel to Wesleyan, when we travel to Emory and Henry, who's 4-0 right now. And we've seen a glimpse of Guilford and know what they're bringing, and they're very tough as well too right now. And so we're really excited to get that one under our belt, and very proud of it, and know that was a big push in our tradition and our history here, to keep continuing to build and break ground.
Yeah, you look at this conference schedule, or non-conference schedule outside of this. You played Eastern Mennonite. You've got a game against Ferrum coming up tomorrow. You'll play Salem later in the week at home, Virginia Wesleyan, then on the weekend in a conference game, then back out of conference against Averett, take a couple weeks off, play North Carolina, Wesleyan, and Meredith, and then you'll get back into conference play. No trips, no tournaments necessarily involved here, though you did just finish one, obviously, with Stevens and Denison in Greensboro, North Carolina, a weekend ago. What was the mentality with the scheduling this year?
We went to Puerto Rico last year, which was awesome. It was really awesome, and would love to be able to do that every year. I think, we try to take our seniors home. That's one philosophy I have as a coach. And so that Guilford trip was to take Sammy Goldsmith and Sarah Kuhn home to their families. So while we were there, we were also able to go to their house and have dinner with their families and have our parents there and really start bonding as a team. And then we went, forward with our conference schedule and went forward. We have a trip planned next year as well, and we'll continue to build on those trips. But we're excited to, continue to play as many games as we can before we get into conference play. And this week we have 3 games in 6 days, but and 2, tomorrow's a big region game, and then Wednesday, and then on Saturday we play, the team that took us down last year. So we've been itching to get a chance to play them as well, and so we're excited about our schedule. We try to play very strong teams, and I think getting to tournaments like we did and playing the Mary Washes, continues to make us better as we play the best.
When you talk about this conference, again, on the men's side, nationally, it's considered one of the top 5. You always have teams in the top 25. You always have teams who make it to the NCAA tournament, multiple teams, 1 year 4. You always have teams that somewhat go deep. Obviously, we had Virginia Wesleyan last year making it all the way to the Final Four after beating Randolph-Macon in the Elite 8. On the women's side, that's not the case. You guys have good teams, but don't make it deep in the tournament. Don't tend to get multiple bids in there. Aren't considered one of the top 5 on the women's side. How much is that maybe changing? How much is that a topic of conversation when you coaches get together?
Oh, hands down. I think we know that we want to continue to push to get into that top 5, and we know that our men have dominated for a long time, so that name for the ODAC is very strong on that end. I think we continue to want to get stronger, and that's something that we talk about a lot as coaches when we get to our beginning of the year and end of the year meetings. And we want to win the ODAC, but then we also want to get deep into the NCAA tournament. And I think last year and the year before we were able to get 2 in, with Virginia Wesleyan and EMU being last year, and EMU being able to win that first round game. And we'd like to see us get further. And so that's definitely a push as we go forward, is to play top teams and then be able to get into the NCAA tournament and compete for a national championship. And we've been really lucky at Lynchburg to have, last year we had 2 teams get to the national championship, one being women's soccer to win it, and then the other being men's lacrosse as a runner-up. And so for us, our players have seen what that looks like, and so there's been a really big taste in our mouth, and I know that drives us a lot to being the best and what that takes to do that.
When you look at this conference and where it is going, or you look at the region really and where it's going, you mentioned Mary Washington; they're not that far away. Mm-hmm. Can the balance of the national power swing a little bit towards the east, a little bit towards the south? Is there teams that can? Is Mary Washington, who you've played, capable of maybe winning and knocking a school like Thomas More off, or is the women still kind of top heavy?
I think playing Mary Wash early on, and I know they're 4-0 right now and very strong too. I was very impressed with Mary Washington. I thought, we obviously weren't happy with our performance, but I thought their speed, the way they executed, their defense, the way they made us shoot shots that we might not want to take. I'm really excited to see how they develop, and I'm really excited to see where they go. And I definitely think they might, at this point, be a step above us when it comes to that. And it's been great to be able to play them because we know where we need to get along those lines to be there as well. But I'm excited. I think that Mary Wash definitely has a chance to do that. And, I'm excited to see how this region grows by the end of the year, to see where we can get to. And I definitely always think it's always a little top heavy, but we're fighting to get up there as well.
Lynchburg College come a long way too. Women's soccer national champs last season. Obviously won't happen this year, but the season before. Men's lacrosse got to the championship game. Obviously, men's basketball has been coming along. You have other sports that have certainly taken a step forward. How much has the culture changed in just the 10 years since you've graduated?
It's been huge. I think that it's changed dramatically. I think there are phenomenal coaches in our department, and we all are very supportive of each other's programs. I'm not sure that's the case in a lot of places, and we're very lucky to have that. I know Coach Scott and I have a great relationship along those lines. My players work out and are very close to the women's soccer team, so I know that is a great influence for them and knowing what it takes to get to that level. And so it has really grown in a tremendous way. We've got new leadership in our new athletic director, who's now into his 2nd year, and really pushed us to new steps along those lines as well. to give us the ability to compete at a national level. And so we're really excited about our future. I truly believe, and I tell this to our recruits and to other families that come through, Lynchburg College's best days are ahead of us. I truly believe that. And we're really excited about what that vision is and what that future is. And, while we build and put into place, with our student athletes, we have great mentors around that in our coaching staff. And I think that's the biggest thing, is in creating really strong young men and women going into the real world. And so we're really excited and think we have one of the best jobs in the country.
Well, let's talk about the women's rules real quick, if you don't mind. Those are obviously the other big factors involved. How much has that changed things, and how much are you are still adjusting, as it were?
I keep telling people I can't remember rules changing this much when I played.
No, they didn't.
I just might be missing my memory, or my coach didn't tell me. It just said to keep playing. But I feel like every other year they're changing them, and I know it's to develop our game and things like that, and it's definitely keeping us on our toes. I mean, going to the quarters, or periods, as I should say.
Yeah, don't get me started.
Make sure I'm technical in that. Is definitely a little different. I think, the thought process behind it was maybe to get a few more last second shots up and to create the game. And, it definitely is a little different. I think the biggest adjustment for me as a coach has been my game management of timeouts. That's been the biggest thing. That's shifted a little bit. If you don't use one goes away. And, there are a few less than we had in the past. And so I think that's probably on the coach's end, one of the biggest game management signs. And then obviously the advancement role on bringing that up is actually pretty fun. I really enjoy that role. I think that's a neat role to have. I know it kind of piggybacks the NBA and what they do. So constantly keeping on our toes and evolving us and pushing us in that direction of where they, want us to go in that vision. And so our players have adjusted. We always have a rules practice and all of those things to go over all of those things. But I think our team has adjusted really well. And, basketball is a great game. It's going to keep going forward no matter what those rules are. So as long as we get our game management tables all set up and things like that, and all the craziness of keeping that in order, I'm really excited about our future.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I know it took a good chunk of your time, but I appreciate you joining us and chatting about women's basketball, the ODAC, and obviously Lynchburg. As always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be watching?
Well, Dave, I just want to thank you for all you do. I think, having a site completely dedicated to D3 is amazing. And you're located in Baltimore, which is a little more close to home to me as well, and all of those things. But really want to thank you for all your efforts in following us. And I know my players and our parents and our fans really appreciate that if you don't hear it enough. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Coach. I appreciate it. Good luck the rest of the season. I'm sure we'll be talking to you at some point, even if it's off air. Look forward to seeing how the Hornets do the rest of the way.
Thanks so much, Dave.
Abby Pyzik Smith, I should say, joining us here on Hoops. We'll appreciate her taking the time. When we come back, we wrap up Sunday's show. Look ahead at what we may be covering on Thursday. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com, National Association of Basketball Coaches. More Hoopsville right after this.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.D3Hoops.com.
Division III allows you to be able to give yourself to other things. Not even just participate in them, but really get involved with them if you want to.
There's a lot of interaction. It's not just sitting back, taking notes. You're actually doing hands-on things and better preparing yourself for your major.
Choosing a Division III school, I've had the opportunity to develop my leadership skills and to be more involved on campus.
Division III in athletics, affords students the opportunity not only to participate in intercollegiate athletics at a competitive level, but also gives them the opportunity to, engage in the other interests in their campus and in their lives outside of that sport and outside of the academics on the campus.
And to have opportunity to have time to join clubs and being able to play basketball, it allows you to just be able to do everything you want to do. I wouldn't change it for the world.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built. College basketball.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to thank all our guests for being on the show as well. First Top 25 comes out tomorrow. And I have my 12 pages of information to vote on. Might even find a team outside of here. But everybody and everybody. I mean, heck, teams like WPI off to a 5-0 start. Weren't they supposed to be down this year? I mean, they have the win over Eastern Connecticut. I mean, it's gonna be a crazy vote. It's the best I can tell you. Thought the preseason poll was tough. This one's gonna be pretty tough too. On the women's side of thing, a tweet came across to us wanted to talk about WashU women's basketball. Big win over DePaul. I don't think the win was all that surprising. I think that was probably to be expected. Top 25, you look at it, and WashU is ranked number 9, and DePaul is ranked number 19 in the preseason poll. I think the score 47-41 might have been the most indicative part of that. Great defense. Of course, the Twitter asked me, he says, lockdown defense by WashU. Listen, I don't expect anything else from Nancy Faye. Of course it was lockdown defense. Yes, DePaul only scoring 41 is surprising, but this isn't that championship DePaul squad. Nothing against this squad, but this isn't that team that made it so far several years in a row and won national championships. This is a different squad. This isn't on the same level. They're good. Oh, they're very good, but not on that level. Of course, WashU is WashU. I mean, it's amazing. So, yeah, I mean, look at the top of women's basketball. Thomas More right now not playing with Sydney Moss. While an investigation apparently is going into some type of potential violation, NCAA violation. Don't know officially what that is. No one's talking. But they're winning anyway. Beat Ohio Northern yesterday. Excuse me. Amherst is number 2. I find that a little surprising. I don't know if the voters knew that some of the top players for Amherst weren't back this year. A couple of their inside presence didn't return, but they're still winning. Did you expect anything else from GP Gromacki? Tufts, George Fox, NYU undefeated, Oshkosh undefeated. Then we hit some losses, Bowdoin in a rough stretch. So, WashU is going to be top 6, top 7 tomorrow. Top 7 probably. I can't see them replacing the 6, but they're tough. Men's basketball all over the place. I mean, you look at Hope. Some people talked about it, said, "Hey, this is a national championship quality team," and I don't disagree. They lost to Cornerstone by 6. They spanked Aquinas. I know those are not Division III schools, but good reference. Tough weekend coming. Good test weekend right here. Good test weekend. Benedictine beat 3 CCIW teams. 2 of them weren't nationally ranked. Should they be top 25? Yeah, probably. How weird is it that they're not even playing anybody but the CCIW and the NACC this season? It's odd. But I'm looking at the back of the season. Do we make anything of St. Mary's at 3-2? No, probably not. Not losses to Carroll and Guilford. Texas Lutheran's 5-1 with a loss to Pacific Lutheran. What do we think of Pac Lou, who's 4-1? By the way, somebody was voting for Trinity, Texas. They're off to an 0-5 start on the men's side. Someone was voting for him. Pac Lou, again, 4-1. Their one loss to non-Division III Portland State and was a smoking. They haven't really played anybody else. I'm sorry. They lost to Chicago. It was close. 4 points. Chicago's not really living up to expectations early. Penn State Barron's 3-0. Rhode Island College, who a lot of people thought was going to be good, off to a 1-4 start. MIT's 4-2. NYU's 4-0, but let's be honest. They played Purchase, Moravian, Acadia, and Mass College. Acadia's 5-1, and they beat them by 3. Acadia's good. That might be a good win for NYU, but that's it. Northwestern continuing that run from last year, huh? 5-0 start to the season with wins over Gustavus, Adelphus, Hamline, I should say, Marion, Concordia, Moorhead, and McAllister. Okay, but they're still winning. John Carroll's 5-0. It's going to be a crazy vote. Ballots are due tomorrow. Got some homework to do. If you got any last-second questions, get them to us now at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville on your Twitter account. Email us, hoopsville@d3hoops.com. Join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville. I noticed some sports information directors on a page I follow on Facebook complaining about the length of women's games. Some of them are not necessarily Division III SID, so I don't know their background or their reference. But I went to only one so far women's game this year, and that game moved. Now, that being said, the referees weren't calling much. I was a little disappointed that they weren't sticking to the rules a little bit. They were allowing a little bit stuff that should be allowed, but it didn't get in the way of the game. That game was done in like an hour and a half, less than an hour and a half. Moved. Very weird to get used to those quarters. Very weird to look up at the clock and go, wow, there's only 2 minutes left. That's different. And then to switch to a men's game after that, which I then helped call, very different. And the men's game drags a little bit more as a result of it. Granted, it's one example. I can't say that's for sure. I'm going to have to go to other doubleheaders and really experience it. See a women's game maybe that's called a little bit closer to how the game should be called. By the way, I saw something funny on the chat boards. I see this all the time. And maybe one day it'll get bad enough that it's a rant. But I love how people are like, well, the only thing that was uneven on the box score was the number of fouls called. Team X had like 10 more fouls called on them than Team Y. Could someone please point to me in the rules book where it says both teams' foul numbers have to be somewhat even? Someone show that to me in the rule book. Any rule book, any sport. If you could show that to me, I'd greatly appreciate it. I hate people who point at the scoreboard. Hey, ref, it's 10-4. It's not fair. It's not how it works, folks. Anyway, saw that on the chat boards. Kind of gave me a kick out of it. You got a few things. Let's see. Coming up, we got a lot of stuff on our list of segments we want to do. Did anyone read the Caltech article in Sports Illustrated? I've read some of it. It's terrific. Longer version online. We may be talking Caltech basketball in the near future. The schedule as it is now, I know I said in a previous segment we talked about this at the beginning of the show. We ran out of time and did not. We'll be on the air this Thursday the 3rd, then Sunday the 6th, back on the air the 10th, back on the air the 13th. Then we're off on a Thursday and back the 20th. So we have 5 shows left. 3rd, 6th, 10th, 13th, and 20th. So 5 shows left in 2015 before we will take a 2-week break and be back on the air on January 3rd. Granted, we'll be at the Hoopsville or the D3 Hoops Classic in Vegas, Pat Gordon and myself. So we'll obviously have some interviews and stuff out there. But think about it. If we had not added Sunday shows to this part of the season, we would have a show on Thursday the 3rd, Thursday the 10th, and then be off until January 3rd. That's 3.5 weeks. So that's the biggest reason we came back, or we brought Sundays back into this part of the season. So we will be on the air Thursday and then Sunday, then Thursday, then Sunday, and then a week off, then Sunday, and then 2 weeks off. If you got guest ideas, let us know. If you got questions for us, let us know, etc. Top 25s come out next week again, on Monday again. Looking forward to that. Not much else to report. We pretty much covered it. We'll see what the top 25s do. We'll see what goes on Thursday. I may be up at the Wendy's Classic next weekend. My plans are to do that. I got to double check weather. I got to double check some other things going on in Division III. Check some other things going on here in the Baltimore area before I finalize those plans. But I will go up for Saturday's day of games at Rochester would be my plan. Not going to go up for Friday's games. I could probably make it there, but let's not put any pressure on me. But I can then see two women's games and 2 men's games on Saturday. You want to talk about some confusion on Saturday at Rochester? We're going to have a women's game, men's game, women's game, men's game. So we're going to be alternating the schedule completely. I think that's how it is. If not, still. Talk about confusion. But my first time, the Palestra, would be there. Again, we'll be on the air Thursday. Lots to talk about. We'll get that all covered for you. I want to thank my guests for coming on the show. They included former Nazareth head coach and Wendy's classic director, Mike Daley. I want to thank him for appearing on the show. Also want to thank Benedictine men's basketball coach for joining us on the show as well. Benedictine, I mean, that's a great story right there. But Keith Bunkenburg joining us on the show. We appreciate him taking the time. Greg Mitchell from Hope, and of course, Abby Pyzik Smith from Lynchburg for appearing. That's going to do it for us. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate it. We're going to be back on the air Thursday. Lots to cover. Lots to get through. Obviously, football is going strong as well. So don't forget to check out the D3Sports.com websites, D3Football.com, D3Hoops.com, D3Hockey.com. And hopefully a couple of big announcements to come as well. We'll be updating the site a little bit. We've tweaked it already. We're going to make some more tweaks. Don't forget, podcast available on iTunes now. So you can easily download your podcast if you don't do it through SoundCloud already. That's going to do it. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the show. You've been listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com, the National Association of Basketball Coaches. I want to thank them for their support. If you have questions for us, guest ideas, etc., or want to just interact with us, follow us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us hoopsville@D3Hoops.com or join us on Facebook, Facebook.com/Hoopsville. Before we go, I wanted to shout out to University of New England, by the way. They got a win over Bowdoin. They've started the season 3-0 on the women's side as well, including a win over Southern Maine. That's going to do it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll catch you later. See you Thursday starting at 7 o'clock. Good night, everybody.